You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 259. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Today, we're getting happy. We are getting happy with New Happy and the author Stephanie Harrison. I was introduced to this book by my good friend bookstagrammer Helia, and when I got it, I couldn't put it down. I read it while we were in Maui, and so of course I was already feeling happy. But with the way that the world currently is in our country and how hot everything feels, this was a book that I feel everyone needs to read. It is going to build compassion. It is going to build understanding. It is such a breath of fresh air, and it really explains a lot of what I, for one, am confused about when it comes to other people and their thoughts and their ways of thinking and doing things. And Stephanie is the most incredible human being. I felt such a calm, and her grace and her generosity, it is so evident in our interview. And I am so excited that I get to share all of this with you and to share Stephanie with you. This is one that you don't want to miss. So I hope you enjoy learning all about New Happy, because Old Happy's out. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here with you.
I don't know that you could be happier than I am right now. I have been so looking forward to this. You went with me on vacation to Hawaii, where I was already happy, and then you made me happier. So
What an honor. That fills me with joy.
you are so sweet. Can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Of course, my name is Stephanie Harrison, and I'm the founder of a company called The New Happy, which is devoted to teaching this philosophy of happiness I've developed.
And take us through, what is the new happiness? What is the new happy? Why did it need to be new?
Great question. Well, it really started with my own personal journey of struggling to find happiness in my own life. And that's what compelled me to want to go out and study what the research has told us about well-being, and then try to put it into words that people would really understand and could help them. And what I found along the way is that the really interesting thing about happiness is that the way that we pursue it also has this global effect on the world around us. And so if we pursue happiness in the old way, what I call old happy, we end up contributing to these big problems in our world that feel very intractable, very complicated, and impossible to solve. But when we pursue happiness in a new way, we're able to contribute positively to the world and create a space where more and more people get to experience well-being. And so it's this ultimate win-win of pursuing happiness in a way that actually does work for you, and also knowing that your choices are making a positive impact in the world.
I love that throughout your book, as I read along, I was nodding my head of like, oh, I'm already doing that. Yes, I'm on the right track. There were parts even in, I need to think back to the specific part, but it's a part of my onboarding process for my clients, and in which I have them share their story. And there was something along the same lines of what you wrote. And I posted a picture of it on my Instagram of like, this is exactly what I do. And it felt so connected. And I really feel, you just posted yesterday too, and I shared, of how finding your purpose, figure out what it is that you want to do. Yeah. What can you do on an issue that you're passionate about, and then make that your purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. I love the post that you made about how it connects to what you're doing. And I think I really like to frame things in the context of the problems that we're facing. And so if you think about the different, many problems that are occurring in our world today, whether it's climate change or mental health or accountability in institutions, like there are a million different things that you could feel passionately about. And what I always want people to do is just to think about the problem that pisses them off the most or upsets them the most, or the one that if they could snap their fingers, they would get rid of it. And then figure out, well, what can you do about that? Where can you start to address that in your community? How can you start to show up differently in your own life? And I think that in old happy culture, because it's so powered by this, kind of cultural force of individualism, we think that in order to make a difference in the world, we have to solve the problem entirely by ourselves. And that's never going to work. These problems are too big. They're too complex. It takes all of us, and it takes all of us making that unique contribution that only we can make in order to help move the world forward to a state of greater flourishing.
I love this. And so have you, since you said that you started this work as you were trying to find your happiness, have you found your happiness in this, and how did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I felt in the past, I never felt okay. I never felt like I was acceptable or that I was doing what was right for me. I always felt very lost, but not in a sense of like feeling aimless, feeling like I was doing the wrong things, the things that I wasn't supposed to do. And I'm not sure if you've had that feeling before, but it is
Hmm.
a very, sort of, it's almost like a kind of tug within you. That's how it feels to me. And I always was being tugged and being told, this isn't right. And I would just ignore it and push it off and say, I don't have time to worry about that right now. I need to do this because this is what's right. And ultimately, this is what will make me happy. And what I have discovered in the last, 10 years, since very slowly, like it wasn't an overnight thing by any stretch of the imagination. It was a lot of very, very small steps that helped me to get a little bit incrementally closer. Um, this feeling that I have every day of feeling a profound sense of purpose, an experience of regular joy that I never had before, a sense of connectedness that I'm a part of something that matters to me, like my life is useful and is making a difference, and that I can feel that sense of satisfaction of knowing that I'm using all that I am to try and do something that's useful for and helpful for other people. So it has given me really like a profoundly different experience, one that I didn't even know was possible. And that has also persisted even as I've navigated really challenging times and, major traumatic events and other things along the way, like so many people. And it's like happiness, not because of the external conditions of your life, but because of the way you live and the way that you show up for yourself and for others.
I love that. And I absolutely feel it.
Mm.
I actually feel it now. I've been having these tugs within the last year of like, no, there's something else. There's something
Yeah.
more. There's something bigger. It's drawing me.
Mm.
I don't know what it is, and yet I'm open to it. And I think that's a part of it, that people might feel that tug, but aren't
Yeah.
open to, okay, show me what that is.
Yeah.
Whatever's going to appear, whoever is going to appear, what is that? And accepting it and leaning into all of those. I think that's a big part of the process.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, one of the things that I kept hearing from people is like, once they started noticing old happy and how it affected them, and they started trying to move away from that, then they were left wondering, what on earth am I supposed to do now? Because if we tear away the roadmap that has defined every single step of your life, you're it's not a surprise that you'd be left feeling kind of aimless or lost or confused, because what are you supposed to do then? And so I wanted to provide people with like, here's the result of, thousands and thousands of studies that indicate what we should do with our lives in order to experience well-being. And let's give you like the most streamlined version of that roadmap so that you can then apply it to your own life. Because, one of the complex things about writing and talking about happiness is that everyone's experience and pursuit of happiness is different. It's all individualized and personal. But for me, what was really interesting was learning to identify what are the commonalities that are shared across, tens of thousands of people. What are the ingredients that have to be included and that might need to be included in order for you to be able to live a good life? And so providing people with like that roadmap to say, when the tug comes, like, here's what you can do with it. Here's how you can approach it and how that might help you to step into the next version of yourself.
Hmm. One of the things that I love you say in the book is that we should really do things for other people and that it will help,
Countercultural.
yes. And it's something that I've taught my kids, especially my daughter, because she, ever since a young age, she loves long nails.
Mm,
And she would be at, the grocery store, and the checker might have these really long nails that she obviously went and got them done. And my daughter would go, Mommy, look at her nails. They're so pretty. And I go, you should tell her that.
mm,
And that 10 times out of 10, the person that you compliment is like, oh, you made my day. Thank you so much. And she's like, oh, I did.
mm.
And so I think, implementing something as simple as that at a young age will help the new happy be happiness for our young people,
Yeah,
rather than have them get to their 40s and be wondering what next.
totally. Like if we can protect the next generation from the negative effects of old happy and teach them how to cultivate this, because inherently they know, right? Like kids are intrinsically motivated to do the things that they're excited about. They are loving and caring and they want to help people. Like some studies have found that as young as 18 months old, kids will start spontaneously helping people that they see in distress. And the reason they don't up until that point is they're like literally still developing from an ability to be able to recognize empathy and pain in another person. So all of these ingredients of the new happy philosophy are present in kids, but they get beaten out of us by our culture and our institutions and our society. And so whatever, like one of the most important roles in this movement is parents doing exactly what you're describing, teaching their kids how to stay attuned to that real part of themselves and then to protect it so that they can share it as they get older.
I love that. And I love that you brought up empathy too, because
Mhm.
I'm such a proponent for really the show
Mm,
alone is I want to build empathy. And I think that the
mm,
best way we can do that is to hear the stories and experiences of other people, because most of the time we are not going to have the same experiences.
mm,
We will never experience some of the stories that I have shared of my guests on this show.
mm.
I've never had those experiences, but now that I've listened, I can understand what
Yeah.
they've been through. I can understand them as a human being. And yet I feel like there's so many people who are resistant to even just listening.
Mm.
Why is that, do you think? Because I don't think we're going to build that happiness factor if the resistance continues.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people, everybody is in deep pain, every human, all the time. Everyone is struggling and suffering. And some people learn to face that suffering and to learn how to sit with it and internalize it and cope with it and meet it with compassion and ask for help. And then they are able to transform that suffering into something else, into empathy, into compassion, into better relationships, into a purpose. Some people don't get that help though, and they don't have those resources and that support. And then their pain ossifies into a struggle to be present for other people's pain, a desire to hurt others, to potentially see them in pain because it makes them feel paradoxically like not alone, and many other negative consequences. And so I think that what we have to learn to do is to recognize the universality of suffering first and foremost. Because when we believe, I'm the only one who's ever been through this, I'm the only one who's struggling, then that's very, very isolating. And it leads us to become judgmental and to separate ourselves further from other people. And then we need to learn to meet that pain of ours with kindness and compassion and to ask for that from other people as well. As you know, I really want to counter these individualistic narratives that we're supposed to heal our pain alone. We're supposed to figure it out by ourselves. And being a witness to somebody who is in pain is eventually what will empower them to do the same. So whenever I see that, I always try to remind myself that this person didn't have anybody to witness them. And so therefore they have no idea how to witness somebody else in pain. And then ultimately it ends up perpetuating these very painful cycles.
How do we help these people if we can then be that person who recognizes that their
Mm,
pain hasn't been recognized? How do we help them in a way that isn't, I'm in your face and I can see that I see that you need
yeah.
some help. And so let me
Mhm.
help you, but I don't know how to help you.
Yeah.
How do we make that difference?
I think honestly, we've sort of forgotten that attention, like presence, is the greatest form of help that exists. Like, I've been thinking a lot about these questions about like coping with difficult feelings and navigating them relationally. And one thing that I was thinking about is how people, one way this shows up is no one ever really talks about their disappointments in life. Like, there's no forum for describing the hopes that you had that have been dashed. And if you get to a certain age, you're going to have a lot of disappointments, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's part of growing up. And I was thinking about how amazing it would be if we were having open conversations like around those topics. Well, tell me about some disappointments you've had in your life. When was the last time you were really angry? What was a moment that you were betrayed? Creating these forums for people to just open up and share what they've been carrying and suppressing on the inside, and giving them love and attention that lets them know that you could tell me anything. You could tell me any story about anything embarrassing or shameful or upsetting, and it's not going to make me run away from you. It's not going to make me withdraw my compassion from you. And so whenever I'm in these situations, I try to just extend this idea of like, what would it look like to just be unconditionally loving to this person right now? And to let them know that their pain is normal, that they're not alone in it. It doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them unworthy. And if they are willing to open up and share it in a safe space, that's what is going to help them to transmute it and to help them to be able to oh, transcend it in a way. And I think, like one of the things that I find difficult about this is, in our kind of culture, um, we've come a long way with like talking about mental health, right? In the last 20 years, 10 years even, and discussing how it's okay to get help and all that kind of stuff. But oftentimes I think what I see happen sometimes is people being like, oh, that person has a problem, just go to therapy, go get a therapist, like blah, blah, like kind of like almost like pushing it off, like I don't want to deal with this. And I think that while therapy has a really important role to play, we also have a very important and very neglected role of community and of creating spaces where people can go and honestly share their pain with other people and to know it'll be received by love. And ultimately, that's what heals it, in my opinion.
I love this. Yeah, because it's not just, hey, how are you doing? Good, you? Good. And we move on. It's
Exactly.
that's so surface. I
Mm.
feel like as you're talking, I'm listening to you and you're such a calm and just beautiful human being. Seriously, the thoughts that are going through my head right now are like, I don't know that I've met someone as beautiful as you, because the way you just articulate everything and you're so accepting and you have these calm, rational answers. You bring tears to my eyes.
Oh, you're
I want to
making me
cry right
cry.
now.
You're making me cry now. That's so kind of you.
But
Thank you
have
so
you
much.
always been this way?
No,
You're like, no, I was a hot mess.
I was. I was for real. Like I was judgmental of myself and others. I was uh you know cynical. I was confused, like every like sort of kind of descriptor you could think of. And very much not at peace with myself, not at peace with others, not feeling like I belonged or connected, like all of those things, so the the path really, like what was so interesting is like I always talk about my experience of like being really stuck in old happy and how that was eventually like kind of hitting rock bottom and realizing, well, this is clearly not working for you, so you might as well just try something else. And at the time, before I really dove into the science behind happiness, I was getting into a lot of like Buddhist thought, which has been a very big influence on this philosophy. And I remember reading something from a meditation teacher who said, basically, like when you're struggling, you should go help somebody and focus on that. And at the time, of course, like that's my kind of core message now. And at the time, I was like, no way, like not gonna work, and very dismissive. But again, I was just at such a low point that I thought, well, I might as well try. And they had framed the helping through the lens of like compassion and becoming more compassionate. And I did. I started to try, and then lo and behold, they were right. Of course, they were right. And all of a sudden, I started developing this sense of like deep care that had never been present in the way that I thought I cared. I thought I cared about myself. I thought I cared about others, but I wasn't even scratching the surface on what was possible. Like, I didn't even know that I had access to the kind of love that was kind of pouring out of me in that way. And what amazed me was that old Happy taught me that, you should be really protective of what you give. You should be really, really cautious about who you share with, and you should kind of hoard yourself away, like put yourself on the shelf and like only share it with like people who have proven that they deserve it, basically. So that's how I lived. And then when I started to make this shift, I realized that it was so wrong, and that the more I gave, the more love I had within me. And the more I helped, the more desire I felt to help. And the more that I devoted myself to the well being of others, the more well being I experienced for myself. And it was so radical that I couldn't believe that I had never even heard anything about this when I was younger. And the personality change that it engendered within me, the inner well-being, like the sense of direction, all that kind of stuff, like it all fixed itself, basically. All never thinking about it, never kind of actively working on it. And so none of this is like natural. Or maybe it is, but it took me work to get back to like natural state.
I'm always amazed by your stories and what you're posting and how people respond to you and how much I feel like you take on because you
Mm-hmm.
answer everybody. You have answers. You're welcoming them into your book club and your community. And people are coming, especially right now, with heavy, heavy stuff. And that has to be, I feel like it's like the life of a therapist of you're hearing everybody's problems. Like the therapist needs a therapist. How is it that is it because you're giving so much that you're able to take on so much from what other people are giving you? Or what has that been like, especially now that we've had the election go
Yeah.
through? That's a lot of stuff to put on you where everybody's like, oh, you must have the answers. You've got happy. You are happy. Here's all my baggage crap. Help me.
I think I think maybe I don't feel so much pressure because I don't feel like I have to have all the answers. And I don't feel like I need to fix anybody. I think that I feel that what people need is that love I was talking about, that presence, and they need someone to bear witness to it. And I can do that. Like I feel equipped to do that. I feel I have the capacity for it, and I feel like it also is hopefully like one of my gifts, is like something that brings me joy as I do it as well. And so when people share with me what they're going through, there's a real sense of there's a real different experience when you don't feel the responsibility to kind of fix somebody or give them a perfect solution, and instead you're simply there to give them a little bit of love and like hopefully shine it back onto them in a way where they feel less alone. And so that has been the approach that has helped me. And then of course, like I rely on people too. I rely deeply on, the close circle of people in my life who pick me up when I feel helpless, or remind me of what I'm focusing on when I get off track, or gently correct me if I get sucked into old Happy. And that stuff happens because like I'm just a human and I'm just sort of figuring this out as I go too. And um, I don't have all the answers whatsoever. I just, if there's anything that I know, it's that like things that are met with love can be transformed in ways that look miraculous from the outside. And I've seen it with myself, I've seen it with other people, I've seen it in our community. And that's what people really want, I think. Like they want that feeling of knowing that they're okay and they're acceptable and that they're loved no matter what. And it's so antithetical to old Happy's like, you're only worthy if you're achieving, you're only worthy if you're successful, all that kind of stuff. And it feels like such a balm. So for me to offer it is just very fulfilling, to be honest, like very meaningful. And it helps me to deepen in my compassion, like if I have a tough time with it, or if I'm struggling to extend it to somebody for one reason or another, I'm like, well, what's the block in me? Like, what needs to be addressed or healed in me that I can learn? And so then it becomes something that benefits me. And once again, like, there's no sort of like selfish or selflessness here. It's simply about how we how we deepen in our connection to one another and what that looks like on a regular basis.
You're such a good human being.
Well, that's very kind. I appreciate that, and I really am grateful for your kind words. But I'm just like everybody else. Like I really am, and that's like kind of the I think like in many ways it's sort of the magic of the new happy. It's like I am just like everybody else, and that is comforting for me when I think about that, because it means that I don't have to be alone in what I'm going through either.
I love that. There was a part in your book where I remember reading it and I had pull my husband over. I'm like, oh, what she says here is
Mm,
exactly what we're seeing, where people are afraid of basically like what they don't know or
mm,
others who are not like them. And that is why they're so resistant to change or accepting others, especially what we see in our country right now with,
yeah,
people aren't accepting anyone who's different from them.
yeah,
And the moment you said that, I went, "Oh, okay, now this is why there's this group of people who are just stuck in their ways, and this is
yeah,
their old happy."
yeah,
Whereas we do have this other group of people who are like, "Cool, you be you. Like, I don't
yeah.
care. Are you happy? Good, then I'm happy.
Mhm.
Do whatever you want. I don't really care."
Yeah,
And I think that there's also a group that thinks it's up to them to do the judging,
yeah,
that religion plays a big part, and
yeah.
that you have to be, the God cop on earth. Whereas I'm like, well, I don't do you. I'm not going to be up there. He's got a job. I don't have that job. So, if you're not going to get into heaven, that's on you, not on me. I don't need to correct your ways unless you're my
Yeah,
child.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
the difference. But I felt like that was such a huge thing. For
Mm,
me, it was like a big light bulb of,
mm.
oh, this is why people aren't accepting of others, because they're afraid of something that's different.
It's so interesting, like just sort of tying this back to what we were talking about with like the deepening of compassion. Like for me, the real unlock in developing compassion was real for myself and for others, was realizing that everybody wants to be happy. And I repeat that a lot throughout the book, but it's so important and it sounds so mind numbingly simple. But when we dig into it, it's one of the most profound things I've ever learned, because if that person who you're describing, if they just really want to be happy and they're doing something in this way that's harmful, that's contributing to the ill health of our society, of our treatment of other people, etc., they genuinely believe deep down that that action is going to make them happy in one way or another.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that we accept their behavior or that we endorse it. It means that we can say, wow, even in your behavior, I can still find a little nugget of compassion for you because you still want to be happy. Like you still are a human being like me who wants to be happy. And there's that beautiful, Buddhist prayer of saying, just like me, this person has suffered. Just like me, this person wants to be happy. And I always come back to it because if I'm struggling with somebody, and I do, like I have my struggles just like everybody else, and especially with what you're talking about, with seeing some of the devastating outcomes of like racist and domination oriented behavior that we're seeing in the world right now, like it can feel incomprehensible. And yet, if I can hold on to that truth of this person is a human who wants to be happy, then that is the only hope of our redemption. Because how can I ever yell at them or shame them or blame them into changing? It's never going to work. It's absolutely never, ever going to work. They have to come to that realization for themselves. And the only way they can do that is through people showing up for them and helping them to gently see the ways in which they're pursuing happiness in the wrong ways. Because if you believe that your happiness is the result of climbing on top of somebody else, of suppressing them, of oppressing them, of exploiting them, whatever it is, then you will do these things. But it's misguided because it doesn't work. And so that shift has really helped me in these struggles to understand why things are happening and then also what we can do to fix it. Because if they do want to be happy, then that means that there is also hope, because there is another way, as we've talked about, to be happy, one that is elevating others, that is about connecting, about the beauty of the individual and celebrating their uniqueness. So there is a pathway. We just have to help them to see that. And hopefully that's some work that can be done in the coming years.
We need you just to talk to every human being on the face of the planet, and then we'd all be better for it.
Well, just book a one-on-one with me.
Everybody in the world, book a one-on-one with Stephanie.
I
Read the
wonder how
book.
long that would take. Math is not my strong suit, but I imagine that would be the work of several lifetimes.
Then just do a webinar so
Yeah.
everybody can. We just
Thank
need you on
you.
a platform to talk to everybody and make it make sense for
Oh,
those
thank
who
you.
don't get it, because you give me more hope than I've had.
Mm,
And it's been a struggle, as a mom,
I'm
as a
sure.
woman, to continue on this path of like, okay, what's next, and
Yeah.
keep speaking and keep doing this, and to really look at the other side and go, oh, cool. You just did what you did, and it's going to affect so many people and
Yeah.
generations to come,
Yeah.
and to find that compassion. And as I sit here listening to you, I think, okay, well, what can I do or say to these people that I know, you know, did whatever they did, voted the way they
Yeah.
did, and knowing what I know, will it change if I say something in that manner, or at least to show up in with you today, to
Yeah.
share this episode, to have others hear it, and to share that, yeah, I do have compassion for others, and I want you all to be happy, but not at the expense of the happiness of others.
Exactly. And it's so difficult sometimes. Like I just want to tell you that like it's totally normal to struggle with this and like sometimes we'll need to tap out, right? Like we can try really hard and sometimes people just aren't ready. And in that case, sometimes it's more effective to go to other spots where we are needed and where we can contribute and where we are able to help people who really need it. And again, like everyone is everyone if everyone wants to be happy, right, then to me my life's work is convincing people that the best way to fulfill your self-interest is to be other interested, to believe in and elevate communities and to try and contribute to the world around you in some way. And if we are able to do that collectively through the effort that you're making, through all of the beautiful work you're doing, through all of the people listening, then I truly, truly believe the world we want is possible. And it's possible sooner than we think because self interest is a very, very powerful motivator. And even if we think about the changes that we've witnessed in the course of yours and my lifetimes and thinking about what's been possible, there is so much hope if people have a pathway forward and if they know that they can get what they want out of it. And I think that framing for me of how do we align this with your self interest is the way in which we can drive change in a really in a more assertive way that hopefully helps us to be able to also end up addressing some of the problems that our world faces and prevent climate change and do all of these things that we're talking about to heal this country. So I really believe in it and I'm going to keep fighting for it forever because I can't think of more worthwhile work to do.
I love that. I fully agree. And I'm going to cheer you on, and I'm
Thank
going to
you.
promote the crap out of you.
Thank you so
And
much.
your book.
I can't believe how generous and kind you are. It means the world to me.
No, your work is absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful. We have to give Helia a shout out that
Yeah,
she brought us together, because I know that she wants happiness too, and being a teacher is
yeah,
a struggle.
really hard.
I,
Yeah,
they do incredible work,
we should be
and
the highest paid people in this country.
they should, yes, especially when you have children, you will see what they have to go
Yeah,
through. No thanks, I don't want to trade with them at all. So I am so grateful that you are not only doing the work, that you've written this book for people to read and to go on this path, and that you share so much on your social media and are so welcoming. I'm so grateful and appreciative of you for who you are and the way you show up in the world. Thank you.
right back at you. Thank you so much for being your beautiful self. It's an honor to get to witness it and to be connected to you.
Oh, you are so sweet. Can you share with everyone where they can find you and how they can buy New Happy,
Yeah,
please?
of course. Everything is available on the website, thenewhappy.com, or social media, New Happy Co. And the book is called New Happy. It's available everywhere books are sold.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I love an interview that makes me cry and laugh all in one. I'm still blown away by Stephanie. I am blown away by her knowledge. I am blown away by the way she takes on the world, the way she looks at all of this, and how she's sharing with each and every one of us a way to think about others, a way to think about our own happiness, and how to connect everything so that we can all work towards a new happy. We can all work towards the life that we want to live and that we deserve to live. I really hope that I can encourage you to pick up a copy of New Happy. Follow Stephanie because she gives such great advice. She is a soundboard for everyone. She is so welcoming. And I am so grateful to call her my friend and to have shared our conversation with all of you. We need to be happy. We deserve to be happy. But I think the only way forward is with the new happy.